Okay, so I'm gonna share a little prayer with you guys, just so we yeah. So if you guys are familiar with prayer, then just you know what to do. Just start to get comfortable. Those of us that are not familiar, prayer, spiritual intention, just start to get comfortable in a seat, or if you're standing, walking, just pause for a minute and close your eyes. And if you can't do that, of course, then just try to be as present with us as you can, and start to take nice deep inhales and exhales. Just start to connect to your breath and start to connect to an energy of receiving. That is, we're practicing our prayer this morning, that we are here to receive grace. Lean back in your chair, make yourself comfortable. That we are recipients right now in these moments, that we can see our life is an amazing river that is taking us on a journey of everything that we need, everything that is vital for us to keep growing and to keep expanding our ability to love. That's a river that we're all in right now, river of grace. I'm going to read a prayer from St. Augustine. God, our life. There are days when the burdens we carry chafe our shoulders and weigh us down, when the road seems dreary and endless, the skies gray and threatening, when our lives have no music in them and our hearts are lonely and our souls have lost their courage. Flood the path with light. Run our eyes to where the skies are full of promise. Tune our hearts to brave music. Give us the sense of comradeship with heroes and saints of every age. And so quicken our spirits that we may be able to encourage the souls of all who journey with us on the road of life to your honor and to your glory. My Lord, no matter where we are in our life right now, please give us the strength to continue walking on the path with alignment with our values, alignment with truth, alignment with kindness and compassion, recognizing that every moment in our life is a great gift, a gift that's coming to help to transform our consciousness, transform our hearts, to allow for us to love with less conditions, to allow for us to be present in the lives of all those who come before us. Be present with your love, with your grace, with your kindness, with your smile. No matter where we are in life, help us to feel that grace and help us to be instruments of it. I'm so grateful. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Vira. Appreciate it. Welcome everybody to the show today. For those who are joining us new or figuring out what's going on, there's a revolution in society happening. It's a prayer revolution. That's what we're doing, because we recognize that the changes we want to see in the world start with us, and that the circumstances around us may never change, but if we can change our perspective and enliven our heart with spiritual perspective and spiritual light, then we can approach even the same circumstances from a completely different vantage point. Mm-hmm. And so prayer is a beautiful practice of whether it's getting quiet like you just did and sharing meditation, or just that mood of continuous surrender on a moment-to-moment basis of not asking but inviting a divine higher presence into every moment of our life. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Vira, for starting that off with us, and thank you all of those for sharing and being with us. And I loved what you just read. There's so much that came to my mind to share, but maybe sometimes before I start blabbing, I like to give you a chance to maybe share if there's anything on your mind, how you're feeling, how you doing this morning, and what inspired you about that prayer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, Bubba. Thanks for asking. I think what inspired me about the prayer is just the dualities of this world, and how, and I love, that there's an opportunity for transformation in every experience of our life. Whatever it is that we're experiencing generally is just one side of the duality. We're experiencing darkness, or we're experiencing light and joy, and whatever it is, we're just kind of on these different sides, pleasure and pain and happiness and distress. And that in every one of those circumstances, there's an opportunity to tune back into a higher power and to be an instrument of that, whether that is in happiness or whether that's in distress, that's irrespective,
Mm.
And so just how empowering that is, how tremendously empowering that is, and how,
Mm.
like I want to live that life. That's the life I want to live, is that it's not bound by conditions, that happiness and fulfillment and connection and inspiration, it's not bound by the weather outside, that it's the nature of my soul, and that I'm just recognizing that and bringing that into every experience, not getting
Yeah.
swept away with the sorrows of life, or not getting swept away with the celebration and the
Mm.
joy of life. Also, just being able to maintain that connection,
Yeah.
spiritually, and seeing that that endless kind of, wave or river of grace, that's no matter what's happening in our life, that's always
Mm.
the river that we're in. And I want to feel that connection, and share that connection.
Yeah. Srila Prabhupada, one of our grand teachers, he passed away in 1977. I think he was born in early 1896. He grew up in the early 1900s in India, in Calcutta, and he was a Gandhian in early days of his life. India was under the British rule, and there was a whole movement to free India and independence, etc. And Srila Prabhupada met his own spiritual master, who was sharing message of God consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada told him, he said that, before we can even start this spiritual movement, we need to liberate ourselves from the rule of the British. Like, how can we, as a dependent nation, even begin to, share spiritual values if we're not politically free,
Mm.
And he thought, this is the first step. We have to free ourselves from this oppressive government rule. And his spiritual master said, spiritual consciousness needs not wait for any material circumstance. You think that you need to do X, Y, and Z before you can start your spiritual life, or before you can start sharing spiritual values. But spiritual life is independent of any material factor. And so it totally changed his consciousness, and like kind of wrapped him around. It was like, oh my God, you're right. And I think, as you were kind of saying, it's like, my spiritual development doesn't have to wait for anything.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Nothing externally needs to shift in order for me to start and continue walking that inner journey.
Mm-hmm. Just got to hang out with Doyal, and then
Mm-hmm.
everything starts coming together.
Yeah. Well, I was also thinking, we've referenced this beautiful book, Buri Prabhu. We wrote this Japa book, and today's Easter, by the way. Happy Easter, everybody. It's Easter. There's churches all over the world celebrating Easter virtually. It's the first time this has probably ever happened. But Easter's an interesting day, because it's a celebration, and many Catholics or Christians that I know say that Easter is even more important a day than Christmas, although Christmas is generally celebrated on a bigger scale globally. But Christmas is the birth of Jesus, which was kind of like, yeah, all of us are born. But Easter is the resurrection, which symbolizes the mission that he came to fulfill. And many times, it's often, if you're familiar with Easter, you might have heard these references. But if not, Good Friday is the day that Jesus was crucified. He was hung on a cross, and he died. And then 3 days later, he rose again, and that's Easter. And so oftentimes it's referred that there's always a crucifixion before the resurrection, and that there's a part of us that needs to die before something new can be born again. But what we often overlook sometimes is that 3 days in between, 3 days between the crucifixion and the resurrection, and that there's always a waiting period. And it's usually in that waiting period that we get lost, discouraged, distracted, because it might be 3 days, it might be 3 years, it might be 3 decades
Mm-hmm.
in between, when we recognize and start to let go of these material shells that we're holding on to, and we start to turn towards a higher spiritual truth. It's not always an instant thing. And Bhakti-yoga writes in his Japa book that when we start to walk a spiritual path, we eventually hit the desert of the heart of our material desires, or it's kind of like, when you depart from a ship, when you leave the dock and you're looking back at the shore, you can easily see your progress, because you can look back and see, okay, the shore that I left is getting smaller and smaller, and I can see that I'm gradually getting further and further away. But at a certain point, the dock disappears behind you in the distance, and your destination is not yet visible, and all you see around you is water. And you're like, I'm lost. You know what I mean? You no longer, it's not evident every day, your progress, because you can't look back and see how far away you are from where you started, and you can't look forward and see the destination yet. So whether you move 10 feet, 100 feet, or a million feet, it all kind of looks the same right now. And so he said that that's a great testing period where we, it's easy to lose faith. But I think that, today's Easter, for example, and it's kind of like, I think it's a celebration of that faith, that day comes for all of us. The day comes where there is a resurrection of spiritual, that moment of spiritual rebirth is there for all of us. But there's that intermediate period in between sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
Ever felt that in between zones, Vira?
I've felt the in-between zone. Yes, I have felt it. It's a beautiful cycle, beautiful part of our life that can feel very intense and kind of, it can be bone crushing, right? That in-between phase where we're not sure, we are uncertain. Our faith is being tested. And that whole process of our faith being tested and staying with it, to then see that next island, or see that next checkpoint, or experience that grace kind of come back into our life, is it's a crucial part of our love and our faith becoming unconditional. Where it's like, that's how Bhakti is describing the nature of the soul, is that it's this, unconditional love and unconditional faith and unconditional acceptance of everything, being a part of the divine plan. And if we don't experience trials and challenges on that path, then it's like, okay, yeah, as long as the sun is shining, then I'll love you. And it's just, so you can bring it down into just the mundane, just practical in a relationship. It's like, it's like, yeah, okay, you and I, like, of course we've gone through challenges in our relationship, and of course we've had difficulties and ups and downs, and, doing the best we can to care for a community and facilitate for, people to have a great experience at the Bhakti Center. Of course we've had our ups and downs. If we weren't committed, then we wouldn't be on this call right now, And so I think it's such a, oftentimes it's like, okay, yeah, let the love come first, let the sunshine come first, let all the joy and happiness, and let that all come first, and if it, and once it goes, then, I'm fair weather, it's like the fair weather isn't there, and the joy, the immediate joys and fulfillment of something isn't there, then I'm going to bail out, and then we miss out. We miss the treasure of a deepening love. We miss the treasure of transformation through challenge, through difficulty, like being able to see the soul shine through a person, being able to see, the light of the divine shine through into our life again, which is just so rewarding, so deeply rewarding, and so deeply fulfilling, and that we have that opportunity. And so that's, I experience it for sure. When I'm in it, I'm like, why does this have to be happening? I'm definitely not like a fan of like the stormy nights of my spiritual path. I'm not a fan of them. But I notice as time's going on, it's like, I'd much rather play football on a nice, sunny day without a lot of wind. It's a lot easier in some ways. It's a lot easier. But I want to stay in. I want to stay in it even when it is raining.
Yeah.
I want to stay in it even when I do, have a bad day. Like I know that for my relationships, it's so deeply fulfilling when, whether it's you or Deanna or my godfather or friends throughout my life, that sticking with it, through a challenging experience, a challenging time, it leads like the reaping of all these rewards of commitment, of holding space for that love. And so I'm not a fan of the of the stormy nights. I can admit that, and can have resistance to them. But I'm noticing as time goes on that I'm seeing the sun shines again. So I'm just having more and more confidence and courage. It's like I almost think about it like when you were talking, it's like you become like a veteran sailor, it's like, of course it's going to be rainy and cold. And of course there's going to be challenges and dark nights, and that's just part of being a sailor. That's part of a spiritual journey. And the sun has always come back out again. The sun has always shined again. So it can be treacherous and it can be really intense at times. And, as time goes on, we recognize as we stay in the ship, we don't jump overboard, right? When we stay in the ship, then we start to recognize that, okay, this passes and the sun shines again.
Yeah, it's only been up with you, Vira. Only been up with you. This is our friend AJ Polk. Calm seas don't make good sailors. It's beautiful. Something that was so encouraging to me when I first started my spiritual journey. At the time, this movie Castaway by Tom Hanks came out. It was a long time ago. Which, if at this point in my life, it's like, oh, this movie came out a few years ago. It's like, no, that was 20 years ago. It's like an old movie. Like half or more of the people on this call probably don't even know what that movie is. But anyways, Tom Hanks, he starred in this movie Castaway, which is this movie about him getting shipwrecked. Not shipwrecked, but basically plane wrecked on this island by himself. And it's a very powerful movie about isolation, about individual journey, etc. But he's just lost on this island. And there's this moment in the movie where he tries to kill himself. He like creates this rope, and he hangs it from this thing, but he literally jumps off. But he recognizes that if I were to jump off, the rope would probably snap. He tests it first. He builds like this kind of wooden body that's kind of similar to his weight, and he ties the rope around it. He throws it off a cliff, and he realized that the rope snaps and won't even hold his weight, and he probably would have just broken his neck or something. And so he realized, I have control over nothing. I can't even end my life if I wanted to. I have control over nothing. And so he says that, that I recognize this warm feeling came over me like a blanket, or that the only thing I have to do is keep breathing, because every day the sun will rise and the sun will shine, and who knows what the tide may bring in. It just may bring you a sail. And spoiler alert for the movie, that the tide actually brings in some shipwrecked piece of plastic, metal, or whatever, and he ends up using it as a sail to build a raft to kind of sail himself off the island. And then he gets found by some freight ship, and et cetera, this whole journey. But you know what I mean? It was like this warm feeling. And I just remember feeling that in my life at this very early age in spiritual life. It's like, oh my God, my job isn't to figure out whether I'm supposed to be in this moment or not, and my progress, et cetera. It's just, sometimes it's literally just keep breathing, is just keep moving forward. And whether you're crawling or whether you're running or whether you're walking or whether you're flying, was that quote by Martin Luther King Jr.? If you can't, you should, fly. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then crawl, walk. If you can't walk, then crawl, but just keep moving forward. And I think that sometimes we can be ultra harsh on ourselves in spiritual life because we have bad days, or we have bad moments, or we have bad seasons. But don't let that, it's like, I can't let that cause me to give up all completely. I have to allow myself to have a bad day, or a bad 2 days, or a bad 3 days, or a bad season, but just recognize that for what it is. Recognize that for what it is. And that at some point I've stumbled, and sometimes I stumble and I get right back up. And sometimes I stumble and I just kind of like roll around in the mud. You know what I mean? And I just recognize it's going to take me a while to get up again. But I know I have faith in the process. And I believe that ultimately, whatever it is that's happening in this down negative circuit, it will pass. And what's that? George Harrison, all things must pass, And so I think it's that trust, like even you and I in our relationship, you know what I mean? And the challenges that we've experienced in our relationship, I think where we are today is because both of us carry this firm belief. I believe in the intention and the heart of the other person. So whatever misunderstanding, whatever challenge, whatever rub is there, it's almost like it's inconsequential. That's just kind of like par for the course of just what happens when when you're trying to move forward together. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that for us to recognize that the challenges that we're experiencing in my life, it's just a rub in my relationship with God.
Mm.
And that I think is what prayer brings us to. Prayer brings us to a deeper place where I don't just turn away and shut down and walk off, walk away, but I wrestle with that relationship more. And I'd be like, damn it, God, like, let's work this out. Come on. You know what I mean? Like, let's work, like, come on, let's argue it out. Like, when's the last time we've done that? When's the last time we got angry with God and instead of walking away, we just walked right up to him and just said, like, just cursed him out and said, this is what I'm going through. Where are you? And allow him the space to respond. You done that recently?
I do have a tendency toward that, actually. Yeah. I'm like, excuse me, like, I had a plan and it seems like you're making things complicated. And what's your deal? What's your deal?
What's your deal, Krishna? Get with the program. You must have missed the memo.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. I love what you're sharing, DG, and that it's like in all of our circumstances, and I guess that this is our faith, right? This is where we start to shed, happiness, the conditions that we put around happiness and fulfillment. It's where we start to shed that, right? It's where in the challenges we face in life, those challenges aren't divorced from our connection spiritually, and in we're going to experience it, pleasure, pain, right? It says in the Bhagavad Gita that they are, it's like, predestined. Like, we have this slate that we've been given in life. Like, you're going to get this much pleasure, you're going to get this much challenge and difficulty. And all of that is so that we transcend it. The pleasures of the body and the pleasures of the senses and the mind and the pains of the body and the senses and the mind, they don't touch the soul. They don't touch the soul. They don't touch our relationship with the divine. And so that we're being given this space. We're all in the school of love, and we're all basically figuring out how to love without conditions. Like, okay, now I'm not going to love you, God, because you didn't do what I wanted you to do, or because you're making things more difficult for me in my organization or in this relationship or whatever it is, right? You're not fulfilling my desires that I think are supreme. You're not fulfilling my desires that I think are actually the greatest gift, that I could receive in life. No, like that love that we're seeking, that spiritual love of God, that unconditional love that we could express toward each other. That's what we're seeking. And that we're, and I'm just loving this prayer that it's like, okay, like, I'm trying to get to this place. Just imagine this for all of us, right? My love has no conditions. Imagine that freedom. Imagine that freedom, right? That there's going to be the struggles, there's going to be the happiness, all of matter, all of the material world. There's going to be the ups and downs, but that more and more, whatever those ups and downs, that I'm feeling that it's conditional. That it becomes an indicator, becomes a reminder. Okay, I'm struggling right now. It becomes a reminder to wrestle it out with our higher power. It becomes a reminder that when I'm on top of the world and everything is flying high and it's amazing and everything just seems like do, 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 do. It's like you're surfing on the wave of love. That, okay, like, let me remember in that time too. Let me remember that wherever I am in that ocean of grace, wherever I am in that river of grace, that I'm not letting it become conditional. I'm not letting it. And so that's what I feel like I'm striving for. That's what I feel like all spiritual traditions and all spiritual faith is helping us to see that actually we have this opportunity for spiritual freedom. Where we're not bound. We're no longer bound by the ups and downs of this material world, stopping us from loving.
Yeah.
I was just, with this prayer is, flood the path with light, run our eyes to where the skies are full of promise, right? This is after he's talking about the burdens we carry that weigh us down, the dreary and endless road, the skies are gray and threatening, our life has no music. We're not feeling that connection, right? That St. Augustine is not feeling that connection, a saint in the Christian faith, not feeling that connection. My heart is lonely. My soul has lost its courage. Like, It's in that space, right?
Mm.
Flood the path with light, run our eyes to where the skies are full of promise, tune our hearts to brave music, give us a sense of comradeship with heroes and saints of every age. And so quicken our spirits that we may be able to encourage the souls of all that journey with us on the road of life to your honor and your glory. It's in that moment that I have this incredible opportunity, this
Mm.
amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
And also I say it on the other side too, that if we are riding high, it's in those moments too. It's in those moments too. Not that we're just, okay, now I'm struggling and that's when I reach out. No, when I'm riding high, also any phase in our life, any place in the river of grace in our life, just being able to use it as a catalyst to reconnect.
Yeah, totally. Somebody wrote earlier that like a biggest fear is failure, and I was just thinking of that verse, second chapter, verse 40 of the Bhagavad Gita, that there is no spiritual failure. There is no spiritual failure, and whatever hardship or struggle we're experiencing in the material world, that the material failure is guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
Material failure is guaranteed. We're all going to fail materially, even if it comes at death. You know what I mean? And whatever angst I'm usually experiencing is because I'm experiencing material failure. I'm worried about some material rejection. I'm worried about some material impoverishment. I'm worried about some material pain, because pain is a material failure. Pain is a material failure. I'm supposed to be happy with my body and my mind, but I'm experiencing pain, so it's a material failure. But that
Mm-hmm.
same pain materially can be a catalyst for our spiritual success, because I
Mm-hmm.
take that as an opportunity to ride higher and lower, ride higher on my in my surrender. And so I think that we're here today as we're ending up. There is hope. We believe in spiritual success. Whatever you're going through, you will get through it. We are getting through it, and you are through it. It's beautiful to just remember. Sometimes we need reminders, just reminders that whatever desert or we're walking through, our island we seem lost on, that there's a new day awaiting. And
Mm-hmm.
and so thank you for reminding me of that today, Veer.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Thank you all. We're all reminding each other. We're all in this together. We are all in this together. Trisha, thank you for the beautiful flowers that you got going on over there. I appreciate and seeing you making vases, and all you guys for tuning in. Super, super grateful. And this is an opportunity for me. It's a checks and balances, praying, sharing the heart, sharing the mind, revealing that. And yeah, let us all be vulnerable and accepting and courageous in our love toward one another and our acceptance of one another, knowing that we are all in a process. We're all in the ship
Mm.
together, and sometimes it's going to be a little stormy, and sometimes it's going to be sun shining. We're going to be having a party, and let's stay in the ship and keep it going.
Stay in the ship. Don't jump ship, anybody. Don't jump ship. And so thank you guys so much. We'll be here same time, same place tomorrow, 9 o'clock to 9:30 Eastern time every day. If you have any questions, please write to us, prayerrevolution@bhakticenter.org. We'd love to take your questions, love to take your comments, love to take your feedback. And if you'd like to listen to the recordings or share them with a friend, you can go to bhakticenter.org/online, and you'll find our podcast link there. We post these on SoundCloud and YouTube in perpetuity. So as long as the internet exists, they will be there. Okay. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Love you, bro. Take care, guys. Have a beautiful day, empowering day.